So you want to buy a McDonald's? You've probably spent years saving up, watching those endless lines wrap around the drive-thru and thinking to yourself, this is it. This is the ultimate bulletproof money printing machine. It is the ultimate American dream, wrapped in greaseproof paper and delivered with a smile. But here is the mind-bending financial paradox that corporate desperately wants you to ignore. McDonald's is not actually a fast food company. Not really. In fact, those world-famous fries, the legendary burgers, the golden chicken nuggets, they are nothing more than a brilliant, highly delicious smokescreen. You see, you aren't actually getting into the burger business at all. You are walking directly into one of the most aggressive, ruthless, and brilliant real estate plays on planet Earth. And if you don't understand how this game is played, you aren't the proud business owner. You are just a tenant on a very, very tight lease. But McDonald's corporate has a secret clause in their contract. A clause so restrictive, so quiet, that it can ruin an independent owner overnight. We will get to that devastating trap in just a moment. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how this multi-billion-dollar real estate empire actually works, how much it really costs to play, and whether owning those golden arches is a ticket to ultimate wealth, or just a lifetime of high-stress servitude. Let's talk about the cold, hard cash, because getting past the gatekeepers of this empire is incredibly brutal. You don't just fill out a quick application, shake hands, and write a check. To even be considered for a standard, existing McDonald's franchise, you need a minimum of $500,000 in non-borrowed liquid assets. That means $500,000 sitting in your bank account as cold, hard cash. No loans, no borrowed money from your rich uncle, no home equity lines, just pure, unencumbered liquid wealth. And that is just to get your foot in the door. If you want to buy a standard, already existing store, the total investment is going to run you anywhere from $1.5 million to $2.5 million. And you must pay at least 25% of that upfront in cash. But what if you want to build a brand new high-tech location from scratch? The price tag easily skyrockets past $4.5 million. In some high-traffic prime real estate areas, it can go even higher. Then there is the secret entry. Sometimes you can buy a troubled, low-performing store for under $1 million. But it is a massive gamble that could leave you bleeding cash from day one. But here is the hidden geopolitical hurdle that nobody in the industry talks about. McDonald's doesn't just want your money. They want your absolute submission. Before they even hand you the keys, you must undergo a grueling, unpaid training program that lasts anywhere from 9 months to 2 full years. Think about that for a second. You, the wealthy high-net-worth investor, working for free, flipping burgers, cleaning grease traps, and managing inventory. You are doing hard physical labor just to prove your loyalty to the corporate system. And if you fail their intense psychological and operational vetting at any point during those 2 years, they reject you. No second chances. They keep the power and you keep your money. But let's assume you pass. You survive the training. You hand over the millions. Now the trap is set, because this is where the real game begins. To understand the sheer genius of this business, we have to look at a simple analogy. Imagine you own a beautiful local bakery. You bake the bread, you sell it, and you keep the profits. That is a normal business. Now imagine a landlord who owns the land your bakery sits on. Every single month, no matter if you sell 10 loaves of bread or 10,000, you have to pay that landlord rent. If you have a bad month, too bad, the landlord still gets paid. This is the secret core revenue model of McDonald's. They are your landlord, and you are their tenant. Decades ago, McDonald's legendary executive Harry Sonneborn famously uttered the words that defined the company's entire future. He openly admitted that they are not technically in the food business. They are in the real estate business. He said the only reason they sell 15-cent hamburgers is because they are the greatest producer of revenue from which their tenants can pay them rent. Let that sink in. The public genuinely believes McDonald's makes its billions by selling cheap food to the masses. But the cold, hard, data-driven reality is that corporate McDonald's buys up prime real estate all over the world. They buy the land, they build the building, and then they lease it back to you, the franchisee, at a massive markup. As an owner, you don't just pay a standard rent, you pay what is called a percentage rent. You are legally obligated to pay corporate either a high base minimum rent or a staggering 8.5 to 15% of your gross sales, whichever is higher. Think about the cruelty of that math. They take a massive cut of your total sales before you pay for labor, before you buy the food, before you pay for electricity, and before you take a single penny home for your family. But wait, it gets even worse. On top of that massive rent, you have to pay a 4% royalty fee for using the McDonald's name, and another 4% for their global advertising fund. Before you even open your doors on a Monday morning, nearly 20% of your gross revenue is already gone, flying straight back to corporate headquarters in Chicago. But how does corporate keep you locked into this system? How do they ensure you keep producing enough cash to pay their rent? They design the physical world around you to make sure you have no other choice. Every single square inch of a McDonald's franchise is operationally designed to extract maximum profit by controlling human behavior. It is a psychological masterclass in efficiency. Take the dining room. Have you ever noticed why the seats in a McDonald's are just slightly too hard, why the lighting is extremely bright, why the music is upbeat but just a little too loud? It's not an accident, it is engineered discomfort. They do not want you to linger, they want you to order, eat, and get out. The faster you leave, the faster the next paying customer can sit down. Inside the corporate offices, they call this throughput velocity. And then there is the drive-thru. The drive-thru is the absolute lifeblood of the modern franchise, accounting for up to 70% of total sales. Inside the kitchen, there is an invisible war happening against time. Every single car that pulls up triggers an electronic timer. If a car sits at the window for more than 50 seconds, a red light flashes on the kitchen screens and the managers start panicking. Why? Because a tiny 3-second delay across all stores nationwide cost the company millions in lost opportunity. But now, step back for a second. Remember that secret clause I mentioned earlier? The one that can ruin an owner overnight? It is called the Franchise Agreement Renewal Clause. You see, you do not own your McDonald's forever. You only lease the rights for exactly 20 years. When that 20-year mark approaches, corporate has the unilateral right to decide your fate. If they want you to spend $500,000 to completely remodel your kitchen, upgrade to digital artificial intelligence drive-thrus, or install expensive touchscreens, you must do it. If you say no, they simply refuse to renew your franchise agreement. They take the store back, hand it to someone else, and all the millions you spent building that business over 2 decades vanish into thin air. The house always wins, and if you don't play by their rules, they will quietly erase you. But if this is such a beautiful, engineered money machine, how could anyone ever fail? How do multimillionaires walk away completely bankrupt? Let's look at 2 devastating, real-world case studies. The first is the debt avalanche. In the early 2000s, a highly ambitious franchisee group acquired over 100 McDonald's locations. They felt invincible. They leveraged their existing stores to take out massive bank loans, buying up more and more territory. But they made the fatal mistake of taking on too much debt. Suddenly, a massive economic downturn hit. Customers cut back on eating out. While their gross sales dropped by just 10%, their fixed debt payments stayed exactly the same. And remember, corporate McDonald's still demanded their high minimum rent and royalties every single month without fail. Within a year, the cash flow dried up entirely. The banks moved in, corporate terminated their franchise agreements, and a multi-million-dollar empire dissolved into bankruptcy court. The second case study is the cultural rejection. Now look at the international market. In several countries, including Bolivia and Iceland, McDonald's closed its doors permanently. This was the mistake of offering the wrong product for the market. In Bolivia, corporate refused to adapt the menu to local tastes and pricing. The local population valued slow-cooked, traditional, affordable food, and they rejected the cheap, fast food model. The local franchisees tried to warn corporate. They begged for menu flexibility, but the rigid corporate machine refused. The stores bled money for over a decade until they were forced to shut down entirely. It proves a brutal point. Even the strongest brand in the world cannot save you if you cannot manage your debt or if you ignore the people you are trying to feed. Let's run the final financial simulation. Let's look at the actual numbers of an average, healthy McDonald's franchise today. Let's assume your store makes an average of $3.5 million in gross sales per year. Sounds amazing, right? But now let's start carving up the beast. First, we subtract food and paper costs, which eat up about 30% or $1,050,000. Next, we subtract labor costs for your staff, which take another 26% or $910,000. Then, we have to pay corporate their rent and royalties, taking a devastating 16%, which is $560,000. Finally, we have to cover general operating expenses like utilities, insurance, maintenance, and local technology, which eat up another 18% or $630,000. At the end of the year, after working 80-hour weeks, managing 50 high-stress employees, and dealing with endless corporate mandates, you are left with a net profit margin of around 10%. That is roughly $350,000 in your pocket.